everyone. Welcome to the awesome day of FileMaker Training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where every day is an exciting day to learn about the Claris FileMaker platform. It is summer in 2025, and we are aggressively covering all sorts of new updates and things that are going on. Yesterday, we shipped FM Starting Point, the free CRM, totally free, like utterly and totally free CRM that's unlocked, and you can take it and build a FileMaker project with it if you want, or learn something from it, or download it and then just light it on fire. Because I've gotten emails from people who thought that they didn't like the way we did it, and they decided they would do that themselves. And what they found out was that building free software, building quality software at all, free or otherwise, is a lot of work. So this is a lot of work. If you go to fmstartingpoint.com, you hit the download button, you'll get an email at some point that will send you the download links to download the current version. There's also access to the legacy versions in there. So we do name the product based upon the year. So yeah, so the current product for this is the year 2025. So we call software that we ship in 2025 version 25. It keeps it real simple. So that's important. So this is a free download. Once again, bug fixes, there's various versions. There's a light version that we use quite a bit of. I use it for training. It's a little bit simplified. I think if you're a beginner or just you use FileMaker peripherally around the edges, feel free to get the light version, use that on your project. People say, well, if I use it with my company and the company pays me, is that legal? Yes. If someone pays me to build a SpaceX astronaut planning program, and you start with Starting Point, how much money do you owe me? You owe me zero. Although it would be cool if you sent me a patch from SpaceX, so I could fighter pilot patch I could put on my shoulder. That would be kind of cool, knowing my software was there. But yeah, it's totally free. Okay. There is a legal README in there if you have any questions about it. There's also a README list of the bugs that we fixed from the last version, mostly a bug fix release. So pivoting forward, what I want to do is yesterday, Claris shipped an update to FileMaker Server 21. So the FileMaker product line version 21 is the current product in market. So the number 21 has nothing to do with the year. It's just kind of sequentially the number they decide to come up with. That being said, I got some information back channeled from the Claris engineering department, which was great. So we could know that this was a thing and to bring it to you. We mentioned it yesterday. And there continues, whenever we have an open Q&A on FileMaker Server, which is what we're doing today, it's kind of an open question. So whatever questions you have, we like to be able to dive in and have an educational conversation about it. And given the fact there's a new release from yesterday, not really new features, it's just a bunch of bug fixes and security enhancements and things like that. The stuff that Claris fixed is considerably longer than the list that you see on screen right here. We've seen more of the complete list. And so it's a pretty big list of things they completed. Yeah. Like Apple, most people who just want to know that it's an update, it's got important things in it. And then as long as Claris fixes it and they're reasonably competent, they don't give a shit how we got there. They don't care about all the things in the list. People like Jacob, and to a lesser degree, myself and other people, we want to know specifically what was done. And so that information was provided to us. I'm not sure how relevant it is to you folks, but we're not going to yeah. Go ahead, Jacob.
There's two clients it's relevant to. Yeah.
Well, okay, so we have
only two, thankfully, but two.
We have two customers that tend to on a sketch. Okay, back up. So let's talk about stability of FileMaker. Okay, so in the world of FileMaker Server, this goes back to a product manager who left Claris and went to work at Apple corporate, although it's really stupid because Claris is Apple. It's a department of Apple. For those of you who've never seen Claris employees, they all wear Apple badges. They don't wear Claris badges. They wear Apple badges. They're in an Apple building. They're Apple employees, blah, blah, blah. It's Apple. So this product manager left one department at Apple, went to another department at Apple. He said he wanted the server to be described as the most boring, non-event piece of software that ever lived. And the idea being that if it blows up, catches fire, melts, that's exciting, makes for a good Hollywood movie and something, but it's not good for your server software. You want it to be boring. You want it to work every day, all the time, without fail. We have two customers that do crash once a week or every 2 weeks. And it turns out, shockingly enough, that there's a bug in the product. So Claris has been fixing these bugs. And we're thinking that the 21.1.5 fixes their specific issues.
Correct. Yeah. That's uh so like ignoring the kind of release notes that are on screen here, there is this one. No, I actually want the point. Did they kill the point three? Hold on, let me see if there's a 21.1.3 because that's what I actually want to show you guys.
There it is, right there.
1.4. No, this is this one. This is a comparison. So they didn't where. Okay, so then I need to be on this page. Cool. It's fine. We're good. All right, this is the real one.
Okay, here we go.
So, because what I'm addressing is basically historic context. So, like, why is there a 0.4? Why is there a 0.5? Like, because we went from 0.1 to point whatever. Anyway, there was a secret 0.2. Don't talk about it. Uh, so this, this right here, that is a very muted way to describe the bug. Very polite and nice. But basically, we had a client that for a time period was essentially crashing, not quite weekly, a little less often than that. Some weekends it would give me a reprieve and it was great. But point three was thought to have been the fix or was told to us as the fix, did not fix, substantially mitigated, credit where it's due. Point four improved upon that. It's not, I don't think it's noted in the point four actually. But they took another cut at fixing that bug, didn't quite get what we'd call the root cause of the issue. But again, mitigated. That server's been running for I think over a month now and hasn't fallen over and isn't, screaming into the night or whatever. It's doing fine. But we will be applying the 0.5 probably, I don't know, tomorrow or something or early next week, just to do it. 0.5 is supposed to be the permanent fix for this problem. There was a weird interaction. That's all I would say, generally speaking, where if you had a script running, like you do scheduled scripts overnight, you do a dashboard, you do some sales calculations, like whatever's big stuff like that. And so some of those scripts are big and they run for a while and they might say run not during intentionally, but on top of a backup if it runs long enough or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a couple circumstances with this client and another one where basically that interaction went badly and FileMaker Server would just crash. And it crashed in the middle of the backup, which is basically one of the bad times for that to happen, because you lose everything up to that. And we don't keep those files because you want to maintain safety of the database and sanctity of the database file. And so we would always restore to a backup. And that means, rolling back all of the calculations that had happened for that hour. And then the customer has to do whatever re-importing and this kind of, anyway, it was a bear. So 0.5 is supposed to permanently fix this problem officially. The funniest part, of course, is that it's not on this list. But this is the back channel information. That's what I'm clarifying what Richard's talking about here. That is the information that's available here. 0.5 is supposed to fix the root cause of that actual problem, and not merely mitigate it. Obviously, there's also all of this other stuff coming out. There's a bunch of dependent libraries that different parts of FileMaker Server is built on. Those are getting security, not even enhancements, just updates, fresh OpenSSL, fresh curl, things like that. Some of the stuff you may have heard of or whatever, like Node is what runs the admin console and the data API and OData, I believe, if you use that, for example. And so those are great. Like we love to see security updates on stuff like that. For actual like 0.5 bugs fixed, this Windows one was good. So this is like a kind of a compliance fix, we'll call it. It's a bug fix, but it's kind of a compliance fix. Essentially, some of our clients had stronger web security stuff set up. Auditors told them, hey, you need to tweak this or change that or lock this down slightly more. That didn't hurt FileMaker Server or break anything for those clients, but they have to do it for compliance reasons. And so as people who are familiar with doing a FileMaker Server upgrade may know, it tends to blow out, like it'll bring schedules over in your SSL and things like that, but it tends to blow lots of things out and refresh them, if you will, put new ones in place when you do an update. And so they're going to be a little more circumspect and careful about doing that with the web headers so that, for example, those clients that have that kind of compliance obligation don't have to go, they do the update, which is great. It's like 3 clicks now. Love that, honestly. But then they have to go back and like put web headers back in, just like reproducing work like that. It's very silly. So the installer is going to step around that stuff a little more carefully in the with 0.5 in the future, which is fantastic. There's also this one, which is interesting. The last one, the administrator roles were able to perform actions and access information beyond what was allowed. That one sounded like one that came back because that was also a thing that was fixed like a couple of years ago when they very first introduced, or reintroduced rather, the administrator roles. That was used to be in 16 and then got dropped for a period of time, went with 17 in the new admin console. For those of you who remember the introduction of the beautiful new one, we lost a bunch of features and they have slowly added back, not quite all of them. I'm still demanding the RAM cache setting, but they have almost everything else reproduced and brought back at this point. So that's pretty cool. And then finally, the big kind of blockbuster bug, we'll say. Rare, most people have not seen it, but very concerning for obvious reasons if you read the details here, if it happened. Basically, like live files on the FileMaker server could have their the theme library corrupted, which I think actually worked out to be being cleared when it wasn't supposed to be as the short version, which is not different from like the difference between that doesn't really matter on a technical basis, but it means you have to restore from a backup to put your stuff back, and then obviously if you lose your themes or lose the library, which is the collection of things that points to the individual themes for your different layouts and stuff, that's a problem. That's a problem because Pro then freaks out because it doesn't know how to style stuff because it's trying to follow. Hey, we use, like if you're using one of the new themes in Pro, or the new theme in Pro, the blue one or whatever, then it doesn't have a reference point to go find the styling for it for the layout, right? It has nothing to follow on that path. So you end up with things that look, well, unstyled or baroque as heck. So.
All right. So that is the 21.1.5 release. And so today's an open Q&A. So I'm looking at the questions here. I got Cora, David, Ned, and Ken, and Larry, and a whole bunch of people here. If you guys folks have questions, let us know.
We do. We have one from yesterday.
Yeah, we have the one from yesterday.
From Lyndon Austin. Jacob, question. I thought you said that you could do an upgrade. Is that the same as an update? Can you show the difference of doing a server upgrade, a server update, or a full install? I have never set up a server, although I have to tell IT what to do. I thought you only had 2 choices, new install or update. With a new install, don't you lose all of your settings?
Yeah. The short answer is update and upgrade are completely interchangeable in this context, specific to server. And I have to say that because if we're not talking about server, they aren't necessarily interchangeable. We don't have the feature yet. There's a theoretic feature where Pro will be able to upgrade, which is actually what FileMaker Server does today. So I can't even demonstrate it properly. Honestly, I was going to pull up one of our development servers. I was thinking about that.
It doesn't.
Taking clients, but
we're discussing shit that's so far in the weeds.
Yeah,
way out in
the short version is you have two. With FileMaker Server, bracketing the conversation of that, you have 2 fundamental options, upgrade or update. It doesn't matter how you call it. The terms are irrelevant, or a fresh install. Their ancient history used to be updaters for FileMaker Server, which was like, if you actually, for example, I think one of these that I've installed was we didn't do the numbers and the points and stuff. It was something V whatever. So like 18v3 to 18v4, for example, you could get an updater for that. And what that would do is it would just patch up the differences between the V3 release and the V4 release. I would call that an upgrader or an update or whatever specifically. However, these days they don't even publish those anymore. The only way that you get FileMaker Server is by taking the full installer and then doing something with it. And so it doesn't matter, Windows, Mac, Linux, completely irrelevant. They all work the same. And that is you like go onto your FileMaker Server. If you don't have anything installed at all, great. You're just running the installer and it does what you'd expect. It installs all the software in default settings. There's no, no SSLs, whatever, no schedules, none of that stuff. You've got to set it all up from scratch. Okay. But if there's an existing FileMaker Server installation of any kind, it is capable of inspecting, and I think I haven't seen this on the web page, so maybe this is incorrect with 21. It used to theoretically be it could pull an upgrade all the way up from 16, which is hilarious. But I think mostly that's because nothing has changed for a lot, some of the like internal details and configuration files and stuff. A bunch of that stuff just hasn't changed tremendously in that time period.
Yeah.
And so anyway, whatever about that. But on a reasonable upgrade, say you're going from 20 or FileMaker 2023 to 21, this version here that was just released yesterday. So like as an example upgrade, you do that, you're like, all right, cool. You shut down your server, so you close your databases. Sorry, first thing you always close your databases, kick everybody off, close your databases. Shut the server software down. You can look up online. There's a service management page that has one for Mac, Windows, and Linux. You can see the commands. And then you just run the installer. It will look and say, oh, FileMaker Server's already installed. Gotcha. And it'll bring everything over for you. That is SSLs, that's schedules, it's the admin console roles and little sub users and stuff like that. I'm always making the joke about the sales or marketing people managing their own databases. Maybe engineering would do that. I don't know if sales and marketing would actually be allowed in practice, but as an idea. And so anyway, it will then do that, which is from some previous version, it will upgrade everything. It'll bring all your configurations up. And if there's like a new setting or something like that, it'll probably just take the default. That's usually what they do. And then you'll be live. You should always, as a note, reboot after you've done what I just said. There's on every single operating system, the details vary. They vary on every operating system too. But there's always something that's left undone before you've rebooted. So just do that. Should be part of the process.
Jacob, we're being kind of long-winded about this, but I want to go back to this. This is such an important thing. So you're saying that if you can do an update, you should do an update because I mean we're driving around this such a 15 minutes on this, almost this one topic. I'm trying to understand that you're saying that an upgrader is good or an upgrader is there, or do you recommend it or not recommend it? Because my recommendation is don't do that ever.
It's the only thing we do anymore. I do clean installs on new machines. So if we redeploy a server in AWS, which is basically a clean install, we bring the SSLs over, we export the schedules and bring them over. Obviously, the databases, or if you got plugins or any of this, you bring that stuff over as needed. But just as an in-place update where the operating systems between the versions are compatible, I'll put it that way. That's an awkward way to put it, but like Mac puts out updates every 9 months or so like you may have to do this kind of stage thing going on, but in general, like if it's like a Windows 2022, we're going to have a new version of FileMaker out sometime this summer, and you may wish to update to that. Maybe don't be the first one. Just that's the normal advice. Try not to be the beta tester, but that's otherwise compatible on an operating system level. And that means if you're on 21.15 and you're just chomping at the bit to have whatever ships in 22, great. You can go do that. You can just go shut everything down, click buttons, and update. That's generally speaking, at this point, fine. You will not always have a perfect experience. I will qualify that, which is why Richard has in the past, and we have historically said, don't ever do that. Correct.
Okay, let me just interrupt for a moment here. So I got to stop you because so everyone needs to understand. So, and this wasn't even that long ago. So Jacob is always trying to use the new features and to help test the product and do this. And a couple things, let me say a couple things in concrete. When FileMaker 22 ships, Half the people here are going to go, Richard, is it okay if we use it? And I'm going to say, no, don't use the new
Nope.
server yet. Don't. Well, it's from Apple and it's official and it's awesome.
I don't care.
No, don't. One, if you want to use the new Pro with the 21 server, so the new product would be called 22, the server's 21. You can have both clients on your machine. Fine. Okay. Now, that's one thing. The second thing is Jacob said, yeah, I do updates all the time. Understand that Jacob, within the last 6 months, lost his over the weekend, and he ended up working a whole weekend, which he hates to do because I always say, do clean installs. And he was like, oh, I'm going to test this out. And it all goes great until it doesn't. And then he spends all weekend, all night, and all weekend beating his head against the wall. And he comes in the morning, on Monday morning, he's grumpy as shit. And so just understand that historically, Claris has to do a really great job of cleaning up when they do an update or upgrader. It says, once again, those words are interchangeable on server. It has to do it perfectly. And if it doesn't, you're going to find out. The backups aren't the way they're supposed to be. The cache is the way it's supposed to be. The performance is better, worse, or whatever it is. So a lot of times I will come up with a new Amazon server, right? Because you want a new server, maybe a little bigger server with the latest operating system. Because we can use Windows. What can we use Windows? Well, Linux, we have the 2404 long-term support. That's on the new one.
On the new one, yes.
On the new one, right? So do you want? Yeah, and it's not a big shock. So Claris always tries to.
Yeah, I mean, if you're threading that needle on Ubuntu, excited and ready to go on 22 and ready to burn your hands, then you need to be on Ubuntu 22 because that is going to be the middle version. That'll be the old, we'll call it the old supported version of the operating system once 22 is out. There's going to be an Ubuntu 22 build and an Ubuntu 24 build, I think it looks like. And so assuming all other things equal, like that'll be what's available to you. So.
Yeah, and real quick, the other part of this on the server thing, especially if it's Amazon, you're using Amazon or a virtualized service, you can spin up a brand new server and leave the old one still running there as a general rule. Okay. Because licensing wise, you can have technically, if you buy a volume license, you can have three servers, at least three servers. And so the rub is that you could have the new server say, I really want to try 22, even though Richard said, don't do it. I'm going to do it anyway. Screw Richard. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Fine. But if you force an upgrade on top of that server, the existing piece of, the virtualized server, and then it goes badly, you have to unwind that. If you have a separate server, all you have to do is move the databases off to the new server, shut the old one down, or just kind of shut off the FileMaker server so it's kind of quiet. It's just sitting there so in the event the main one blows up, you take the databases back off, you move them back to the older server, which we know was working 21.1.5. So that's kind of, once again, a strategy, especially with virtualized servers. You don't have to buy a second piece of hardware. You have a second virtual server for a month, 2 months. After a couple months, you should have a pretty good idea whether it's going to be a smoking pile of shit, right? And in that case, then you would make sure everything's off the old server. Then you just kill it, and then that drops off your bill. So you own two servers for a short period of time, and then it's like someone sell at a garage sale and get your money back or kind of thing on the second server. So you don't have to really. That's the virtualized server stuff is so great.
Yep.
So yeah. I just want to make sure that because Jacob, him and I have gone round and round on this, and it's all good until it's not, and then he's all pissed off because it screws up his weekend, right? So it's like,
that was just to be clear though, that was 1933 that did that.
So Hot Air Balloon Ken, my opinion is new install. Jacob is like, use the update, and hopefully it all goes good.
If you're doing again, my general advice is. Because like the people that are asking in here, they're like, oh, I want to go from 19 to 22.
Oof.
Okay. One, don't. Two, you're going to have operating system compatibility problems. That's your actual issue with that. I can do that, but it's because I know, we have to upgrade to like this level and like do this stilted upgrade. That's what people pay me for. Frankly, he's managing the matrix of different features and support and details, and does this driver and plugin need update, like all that stuff. That's what people pay me for, frankly. And so if you're on 21.1 or 2 or 3 or something, and you want to go to 5, fine. Like it's
Yeah,
not going to
that
be
should
an
be pretty.
issue.
No,
You have
yeah,
no
that's
particular implications to an update like that. It's a security update. Generally speaking, I'm going to tell you to just do it.
yeah.
Um, just honestly, you
We're
can pay
back
me
to
to
the
do it, obviously, but
we're
you
back
know,
to the penguin video where the farther
yeah,
you go without updating, your penguin has broken off. It's on the ice. I've seen videos of this, right? If your penguin has to swim 2,000 miles to make the upgrade, your penguin's going to die. Okay, let's just be clear
yep,
about this. Your server's not going to make it. It won't work the way you thought. So that's why I always tell people you need to stay either on the current version or one version back. I never let you get two out on anything, two out on
yeah.
anything. So,
I've been
um,
trying to get people off at 19 and onto at least 20. Also, 20 is TBD on support and is either supposed to have been killed. Sorry, 2023, my bad. Uh, but 20 is supposed to have been killed for support and is only TBD because they were trying to be determined TBD because they were trying to figure out this bug stuff that we've talked about at the top of the hour. Um,
okay.
and so at some point, I don't know when, I literally that we'll probably find out when they update the webpage. Um,
Okay.
they will kill support for 20, and so then if you're on 19, you are then two full major revisions out of support.
Well, at least, if not more than that. So I
Yeah.
got a couple comments here. I'm going to go back. So I'm going to hit the easy one first. So good news is that from Hot Air Balloon Ken, who flies hot air balloons around like Top Gun flies fighter jets. He says I can go from 21.1.4 to 21.1.5 should be a simple update. Yes. Okay. Don't
Yes.
forget to restart the server. Two, Cora says I am 100% going from 2019 to present. Okay. To be clear, that's 6 years. That's 6 years. You need a new server for that, almost certainly. And that'll be a clean install when you do
Oh,
that.
wait, 19. There's only
Yeah, I don't.
you would have to already be on Windows. So I think that's only possible on Windows, and you'd have to be on Windows Server 2019 to do it.
To do what? To do action upgrade? Upgrade?
19.6 all the way to 21 latest, basically. Yeah.
Okay, but
That's the
19.6 is
only
not
compatible
okay.
cross-compatible operating
Back
system.
up to 2019. Okay, let me back up here. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Let me see. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to make
19.6 only went out of support in December.
right, but that's not what she said, right? She said I'm going from 2019. 2019, the year 2019, Claris came out with 19.0 or something. Wiki FileMaker releases. See, this is all
No,
part of
Cora's not. Yeah, they're not
that's a
using the correct versioning for whatever they're talking about, because
well,
of this version year confusion that
maybe
Claris
I
has
don't know.
subjected us to. Because
Yeah,
there is no 2019.
so I'm just going to warp back the dawn of time. Everyone, just hang on, be cool here. So FileMaker comes out in 1985 with a 0.0. Okay, that's the extension. Okay, I started using it in here, and then we get down forward. The modern version of FileMaker with the relational graph and basically was born in 2000. That's weird. I guess the number on the right's a smaller number. I think it wrote this kind of weird. So 2003 and
Year
2004.
and month.
Yeah. Oh, is that what that is? That's a month?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. So we go forward here. So here is, okay, this is 2019 here. If she's talking about FileMaker from 2019, she's
Be
on
18.
FileMaker 18. Here's 2020 happens to be 19. So is she talking about the version 19 or the
She
year?
says that I bought it in 2019, so I assume that
Okay,
she's on
she's
18.
she's on 18.
Be
Yeah, that's
17 or 18. Yeah.
yeah, she's on yeah. Oh,
If it
could
was
be
early, if it was
yeah,
early 2019, it could have been 17.
17.
Otherwise, probably 18.
So I'm just telling you, Cora, if you
That's a new server.
yeah, it's a new server. It's just a new server. You can't use the existing server and run an upgrade on it. You need a if it's hardware you have, go buy new hardware. Well, but she's a dinosaur person. She doesn't give a shit about servers and stuff. So, I mean, Cora is such a perfect example of the subject matter expert. She knows everything about Jurassic Park kind of shit, right? Digging up dinosaurs, making them back to life, having them meet people. Um, but then she does FileMaker only because she kind of needs the software. So this is unnecessary complexity she doesn't need. So what we're telling you is new server, and then if you're doing the install right now, then make sure you do a clean install in
Yeah.
21.1.5. And then when 22 comes out, just be chill about it. Don't worry about it. You want all the people who are early
Yeah.
testing
Stay
it
on
to
21.
yeah.
You can upgrade in Ubuntu. Question mark.
You should probably go back further.
Oh, is it
If he
farther?
asked.
Oh, I see. Before upgrading, you need to down the FileMaker server.
Yes.
For that,
I'm just saying yes. The technical and correct answer is no. Current and modern FileMaker server, but I think that only literally applies to the current version, can theoretically shut the service for you. Don't do that. Do not trust that. Please manually close your databases when you are doing an upgrade install. Please and thank you. I don't care what the documentation says bluntly. Don't do that, because if you accidentally crash your databases because it doesn't shut down quickly enough, you have barbecued yourself and you may not know it. Don't do that. Thanks.
So what Jacob is saying right here is that you're over here, you log into your FileMaker server, you're going to go over here to databases, you're going to say close all.
Yep.
Well, I just want to tell the operating system to shut down. No. Pull the plug on the back of the computer. Don't do that either. Whatever. And those are equivalent. And don't say it.
Don't do that.
Well, why do we do it manually? Because Claris, for the last, the next year, the year after is going to be 40 years. You would tell it to shut down, and this would try to shut down, and it wouldn't be fast enough. And as Jacob would say, the operating system pulls out a gun and starts shooting, literally. And it puts a bullet right through the FileMaker server process and kills and crashes the databases for you. And so Claris had to realize they weren't in charge. The operating system's in charge. So if they say hands up, don't move, you do that. And if they say get on the floor and shut the database down, you have 2 minutes or less to do it. Well, we need to take longer to do that. Then out comes the operating system and starts shooting. And so you'll end up with a improperly closed database, which means the database might be damaged, right? So we all clear on that, everyone? Super important.
We consider that a crash. Even if it means nothing happened, blah, 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 don't care.
We consider it a crash.
From a backup. Yeah, restore from a backup if that occurs, period.
Well, I don't have a backup from this year. We've had that one before. I thought we had backups. We don't have a backup.
That's rough.
Yeah, it really was. I have 1,000-mile stare.
It was ugly.
It was not good.
For that, in Windows, you need to go to services and in Windows, you need to go to services and stop the FileMaker services.
After you've closed the database.
After you close the damn database, right? So if you go to services and like Control Alt Delete and you're in the task manager and you kill that, that's where you pulled out the gun and start shooting. Dead.
Do not force quit the FileMaker server.
Yeah, correct. There's a services manager. Each operating system has it. Fine. The one in Windows is graphical, so you can click buttons. Fine. But always close the databases first, because if I don't know, the FileMaker server crashes on the way down, it doesn't matter if the files are closed. It does not matter if the files are closed.
Yeah. If I go over here and I close all these files, like I'm just going to do this, close all these are stream server.
There's nobody in them. Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll close down in 2 minutes. But once these are closed, we don't give a well, we want a copy of the database, the FMP12 files, but beyond that, we don't give a we have no to give. None. We don't care. Now they're closed. Now those FMP12 files were properly shut down. They're golden. Okay. That's because we said this to do this. This happened pretty quick. If you have 50 people logged in, right, then and someone's running a script, FileMaker may not force that. FileMaker not want the engineers at Claris. We don't want to tell someone's script to forcibly stop right in the middle. We had a customer, and they're not our customer anymore because they were a little unwieldy, or a lot unwieldy. They would run a PSOS every hour, right? And the PSOS would took 26 hours to run. It was
what?
Yeah. So
yes.
Because once again, this gets back into I don't like big PSOS scripts. I like little snuggly ones that do little snuggly stuff, right? If it runs for a minute, 2 minutes, great. If it runs for 15, 20 minutes, I get real nervous. And so they had a script that would not be out of the way before the next one was called. And so they would pile up and then the thing would fall over. Well, if you went to that operating system and told it to shut down, FileMaker, the server, is leery about telling a client actively running a script to stop where it's at. And you have to have the intestinal fortitude, as the word we would use in the Army, the intestinal fortitude to make the right decision and to tell that process you must stop. Otherwise, we're going to crash all database because the operating system is going to go, hey, are you out of there yet? No? Okay, I'm giving you another 20 seconds. That's it. You go by and then out it comes and it starts shooting and it kills FileMaker server dead. Well, then how, and in Claris, this has been a problem with Claris. This has been their thing for, and I say decades with an S.
That's why I'm
Decades.
like, there's a bunch of this stuff where it's like, that's cool. Again, 21, like for example, the current documentation for 21 says you're supposed to be able to automatically apply a Windows update, and because it can take the FileMaker server down and bring it back up again, right? Like the docs say that. Literally 21 is the first version in the entire product's history where that has been a claim that they have made. And do you trust their V1 of that?
Of that, yeah. Negative. Negative Ghost Rider, the pattern's full. No landing on the carrier. All right, we got another question here from Margaret. What's this? We have a operand even our machine. Margaret, you want to read this?
Yeah, it's just comments that I thought were interesting. Even on our machines that we shut down in the evening, we run a system script to close all the files and then stop the service. And then later, the AWS schedule closes the machine down.
Wow. So you guys shut the whole server down at night? Wow.
I'm guessing to save money. It would make if you have an AWS. Yeah.
I just tell people never to do that, honestly. That's my best advice. Because it's saving money. It does save money. Like, it's true. It's a thing that you can do. You can build an entire process to do what he just said, which is basically schedule the server, right? Like, think about a little on each end of business hours or something. And then, okay, if you have 8 hours of business hours and 16 hours of nothing, you can save, 15 of the hours or something on a daily basis. Fantastic. Sounds amazing. You do that at the cost of failure every single day.
Yeah. So Claris used to recommend this. They would quote these prices on their stuff, and they would say, and they would tell everyone, well, you're going to shut your server down every day and turn it on. It's just like, in their analogy from the product manager at the time, nice guy, but he said, well, it's just like remembering to turn the lights out when you go home. Okay, well, how many times do the office lights get left on? All night. Okay. Unless that's why I go through my house or my place, I put the little thermal motion thingy. And of course, if you're sitting really quiet in the corner working, then the lights go off in the middle of the day, right? So,
yep.
But yeah, and so they had customers who would forget to shut it off. They go home for Christmas or 2 weeks off or something like that, and their bill would be huge because they'd bought a really big server, like a $2,000 a month kind of server, which is crazy. But they said, well, it's not that bad because we shut it down for 15 of the hours of the day, right? Except that they come back and it's been running continuously. And
so. And actually, if you're talking about $2,000 type stuff, sometimes that's probably the price point in the cloud where you can start thinking about going on site again, honestly. Like, you're going to write a $10,000 check for that server, just to be clear. I'm not talking about small dollars in any sense, but it's one of those things where it starts to become to where it makes sense.
It depends all on your IT team. Do you have Cora has an IT team that she seems to think that they don't know anything, which is
Cora's the IT person. Then
yeah, she's a dyno person, right? Yeah, but she has to be the IT person. So the dyno person is teaching the server IT people how to put the server together. That's just so whenever I say you have a cooperative IT department, that wasn't what I was referring to. I was referring to people who like FileMaker, want to support it, and they are happy and they know enough about it to be functional. So
random comment 22.1 does not support Gmail OAuth 2.0 while 20.3.1 does. That was fun to find out.
Where OAuth and where in the script or in the login? Because that's
send mail.
Yeah, but we've never still been able to get that to run reliably that I've checked. We gave up trying to make that work.
The Gmail one, yeah. The others work fine, but
okay, okay. Yeah, so from Miguel Blandon, nice to meet you. That's one of those features that we kept trying to demo for people. We could never get it to work. And Claris Engineering swore, oh, it works great. Oh, it works great, but no one can make it work except like Soliant Wim Court's like Jacob here. So the smartest person on the planet got it to work. Well, if the smartest plane can get it to work, it works for everyone. Negative. This software is supposed to be great for people who are not 200 Mensa kind of people. So Austin Lynn from Osos says, so you close the databases and then go to services windows to stop the FileMaker services.
Yep.
You don't. Yeah, you don't have to use the command first to tell FileMaker to stop all your services.
Correct. Because that's a Windows comment. On Linux and Mac, you're going to be using the command line, period, to do what I just said. There is no services panel. That's why I previously alluded to clicking buttons on the Windows version for service management. On Mac and Linux, you will be using the command line for that operation. Actually, if you're on like Windows and you have like a Pro version, I don't mean like a server, I mean like a Windows 10 or 11 Pro SKU. You have a services panel. You can search in your start menu for services, and you will find that same menu to familiarize yourself. And then you don't have to mess with the IT people or have them show it to you or whatever.
Yeah, briefly, let's talk about space real quick. So this is our stream server, and so we're not using that much space. I logged in. So we report a bug to Claris. It doesn't particularly matter. We would be in the BVA database on Windows, and if you went to layout mode and had the left or right pane show on most of the layouts or some of the layouts, whatever, it would crash the client dead. So we told Claris, hey, can you log on here and look at it? Claris says, yeah, I was alarming because I was looking at the logs, and some lady named Linda Wynn, whatever, Titan, Mongrel, some sort of like monster name, code name, monster name, had logged into the server. Then I realized it was Claris's ETF or the Claris engineering logging on, looking at them like, and then so we get a call back says, yeah, we see this problem. Can you send us a clone of the file? So what's a clone of the file? Clone of the file is a file with absolutely no data in it. It's just the structure. And so to do that, real quick for everyone who hasn't seen that, you come over here, you're going to pick like the balloon investigation file here. You're going to tell it to close. And then you're going to wait for the little thing to turn gray.
Yep.
And then you're going to click, tell it that you want to download it. Now, what happens is that it will say, okay, he wants to download it, but I'm going to zip it all together and put it as a download. And once it's available, it will pop up here. And so the one yesterday we had took it like 10 minutes, and it kept, and this is where Jacob's going to jump in here. I had 68% available space. It's like a 6 GB, the Big Valley Aviation, all the photos in it. And so it's making a zip. If the file's offline, it's in making a zip. It says, hey, I'll post it here for you as soon as we have it available. So it was an intermediate message. We don't have it here. Okay. And so I'm watching the space. The processor is going
count up.
Yeah, this processor's at like 90%, and it's going 60, 70%, 71%, 72%, somewhere about 73 or 74%, the zip was done. But that brings up a good point. When you ask for download, it's going to make a zip of the database and the current container folder.
Yep.
And it won't save much space. It was a 5.8 gig expanded, but 5.3 in the zip, so it didn't save much. But it makes it one file, so they send it to you that way. So I can do, I'll just hit it. It doesn't matter, it just does it. And you can see it up there downloading. So anyway, so you get that idea. So then you're like, okay, so it had the zip, we downloaded it, and you would see it, be, probably a little bit larger, more space being used. You come over your databases, and in the process of me turning it back on, somewhere along the line, Claris goes, oh, done with that zip. Let me go ahead and dump the zip. So then I watched my available space kind of reclaimed it. It threw the zip away and like emptied it. And so it went from 74 back to 68 or 67 or something, right? So, but you have to have that space, right, Jacob? Considerations for.
Yep. It's one of the things people run into. We've a bigger problem on Windows, not even specific to like the way we set the servers up, but it's because it's similar. A lot of people do even virtual machines on site and stuff like that, and they put a tiny Windows drive, which is fine because as long as you have enough room for like the literal FileMaker Server app and Windows and the updates and a little free space and stuff like that, like it's no big deal, and that's why people undersize those disks, because there's just no reason to spend the money on it. However, it will make that zip for downloading the zip of whatever database you've requested. It'll make that usually on either, I don't know if it's the boot drive or it's the drive that FileMaker Server is installed on. Often those are the same. That's why I'm not sure which it is. And so you have to have enough space for that. So if you have a mega database, 6 gigabytes is not a mega database, just to be clear, but like a substantial one, talking tens of gigabytes or greater, you may need a little bit of extra free space on your boot drive to allow for that zip to be made. You want me to share back on mine?
I'm going to open up the BVA one here real quick, and you'll see the one that's a little bit bigger, where our butts are puckered a little bit more.
Yeah, okay.
More of a butt puckery
You have
thing.
enough, yeah, you have enough stuff on that server.
Oh yeah, you're seeing that. So this one here, okay, was 65, and I closed this one. It's only one database here. So this is a classic example. 275 megabyte database, right? 275 megabyte database. Well, how is it burning through almost 100 gigs? Well, because there's 5 or 6 gigs of containers in there, and then there's multiple backups in here. I don't think this has the fancy backup thing on it. So Jacob does. So there's only 33 remaining. I closed it, I made the zip, and you start seeing this clicking down or clicking up, shall we say, and it getting fuller and fuller. And if it hits 100%, boom, baby. So yeah, no bueno on that. And this is all solid state drive, so it's pretty quick stuff, but you really don't want to run your drives with SSDs, Jacob. You don't want them over what, 3/4, 80%, something
80.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It doesn't actually honestly matter for virtual machines, but if you have a physical drive, 80% should be your highest. That's a high water mark for an SSD. If you're on the SSD, like it's an on-site server or something like that, you got to be really careful. 90 is like you should be getting emailed because something should be screaming at you because you have a problem. The reason is because the firmwares on the SSDs, because of course there's half an operating system on the drive too. Welcome to 2025. It does work for you where because the actual little bits of the drive wear out over time. There's like little squares, little, I don't know, chiclets or something that represent the drive. There's 1,000 of them on there for each gigabyte. Okay, that's fake, but you get the idea.
they're
And so
magnetic. Yeah.
yeah, they wear out over time, basically. They literally
well,
wear. And so those get classified as worn out chunks. And the firmware on the hard drive itself, this is under the operating system, invisible to you. Its job is to make sure you don't lose data because of that, right? So it's going to relocate some of that stuff as needed and as necessary. You need to make sure there's enough free space that it has the freedom to do that. And it will do so in advance of there being a problem. That is why you need to make sure there's free space. You need to give it the freedom to be able to keep you safe. If you watch carefully, if you have like an SSD for 5 years or something like that, you'll actually, and reboot, and there's some like reconditioning things type that you can do to make it, I'll say, recalculate the gigabyte count or whatever. In other words, actually correctly report to you the number of squares that are actually left, or sectors or whatever they're called.
Blocks, I think. What's his name?
Yeah, correct. So, but anyway, like over the course of say 5 years of hard use, you'll see that count down because it'll mark some of them as we're not using those chunks anymore. Perfect. That's excellent. But that also means that's what that safety margin is for. That's why you want to keep it under 80% so that you have both like the squares to be lost because they will wear out. That's it. It's simple. It's fine, but that's how it works. And then you need the additional free space squares that are not lost and are also not used for it to be able to rearrange things usefully and intelligently. And additionally, the reason why it's like 80%, which sounds like a really low, 20% free space, you lose a little bit. Okay. Like that sounds like a little excessive. The reason for that is because over the years, many, many, many SSDs have had bugs with that process where you don't want to put them in an impinged position with the firmware trying to figure out what it needs to do. You want to give it free space to do things in advance and never put it under pressure because sometimes it will make the wrong decision, and the wrong decision means you're losing data and you now literally have a hole in your database. Don't do that. Don't find yourself in that position. So it's a hardware consideration. Sure, things that you theoretically are supposed to ignore. If you keep yourself under 80% free space, it just, generally speaking, will not be a problem for you. It'll be, the whole drive will fail and you'll be like, okay, that's what you have backups for. Like that'll be the type of situation that you deal with. It'll be a major fault, not you have a tiny hole in your database somewhere because the firmware did the wrong thing on a Thursday.
Yep. Yeah, we've had that happen. Questions from anyone on this? Because we got Jacob here. So while we've been talking about server, it's really about questions you folks have, right? So,
Oh, that's a good
um,
one. Yeah, Miguel, not a question, but a comment. Figured out you can create a clone via scheduled backup, save some time. That's correct. I have customers that do that so they can track structural changes over time if they need to.
Oh, that's nice.
Yep.
yeah, you can create a schedule, Margaret. You have to create the schedule, then run the schedule, then go fish it out. Actually,
Yep.
can you download a backup through the web interface?
Not yet.
Okay, so so Margaret, no, we did it the correct way.
Demanded feature, long demanded feature.
Oh, you can't? For some reason, I
No.
assumed that it had to be in there
Uh-uh.
somewhere.
No, Claris. So it's a thing. It's a thing that drives me up a wall. That I'll call it feature is exclusive to FileMaker Cloud. Where the answer to that question is yes, actually, you can download a backup. And it pisses me off because I want it on all of the other platforms. That would be amazing. If we could do that, that would be tremendous. Many of my clients would love to be able to not have to fish around in S3 or bother Jacob for this. Like that would be awesome. Making backups fully self-service for clients through the admin console, 11 out of 10 feature. 100%. That'd be amazing. So
Okay, so Schmiegel asked a question, then Core asked a follow-on question.
Yeah, want to do Shiegel's first? That's
Yeah, let's
easiest.
do that one first. So if you have multiple files in a solution, I mean, I'm not helping out here, okay? If you have multiple files in a solution, so you have 2 or 3 or 4 different files or 20 files, whatever, and they all have the .fmp12 on them. I like to try to build things these days with a single file, right? Like, which is what this is. So it's mostly all together. If you had hundreds and hundreds of users and huge gigabytes database, maybe you'd break it apart. But let's just say we're not doing that. Most of us don't do that. If you change a file name, does it break the linked file? So the answer is yes, but it's generally easy to fix, right? Because if you open let me stop sharing here, and I will just briefly share.
external data references. Yeah.
All right, so this is this here. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close this one. There's that. I'm going to hide that. There's the penguin. Don't get stuck on the eyes. Close all my stuff. And that. Okay, great. So over here, do you have an FMP12 file that's hanging out over here? This one's called Shaking the Dependency Tree. It's a sample file from another video from Darren Terry, which is really great. This file is intended to run, whatever, it doesn't matter. So this is a single file solution, but if this was shaking the dependency tree, and then you had shaking the bush and shaking the grass and shaking your ass, maybe like 4 different files, right? And they were cross-connected, you would see those under File, Manage, and then you'd have this external data sources here. And you'd see the file name that it's expecting to see, and then you could, like if I say let's connect it to the other file, add a file. I'm gonna go to the balloon investigation file, see if it'll let me do that. Okay, so it's file, it's right here. Yeah, so then it's in here. So you hit OK, and they're linked together, and then you're like, hey, I changed the name from balloon investigation, right, to Smurf investigation because hot air balloon can't fly anymore. He's not allowed to fly balloons. So he's investigating little blue people or something. So you would go back under here to manage and under external data sources, and you would make the adjustment right here. You'd come in here, say edit, and you'd change this. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the answer to that one generally.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
The follow-on question is about the diagram links, the database view. That is why you want to link things via that external data sources, because the file TO table occurrence on the relationship graph for that external database, you can update where that points under the hood. So you don't have to update any of the relationship stuff as long as you update what it's based on.
That right here is right here. It's referencing the name over here. File. Well, I can't get there from here, but it's not. You're not seeing that. Like if I want to put a TO here from this cross, this is the single file. This is the remote file, but that's not the file name. That's the title of that data source. It happens to be the name of the file. So I just say this, I'm going to say, I don't even know what this is going to be. Admin, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. Oh, wow, it went in. Okay, there we go. So I have a link there. So there's this file here. And I say, okay, that's really awesome. Okay. So then you're like, fine, close it down. Then we have Smurf investigations. We're going to change this file right here. I'm going to come over here, Smurf. Okay. and then I'm going to open this file up, and the file's going to be like, yeah, whatever. And you go file, manage, database, and it's like, hey, I can't find this. What the hell? Right? And it says, go find it for me. Just when you see this, just stop. Just see it's broke. Cancel. Go up here, file, manage, external data sources. It's still called Balloon. That's the name of this reference. Okay.
Yeah.
It used the file name, but then after it doesn't care. So we say edit. We could say it's going to be Smurf whoops, I have to type that correctly, Smurf, okay? And so I'm going to change it to that. It's the title is still called Balloon. The technical file Smurf. The file over here is Smurf. I hit OK. I'm just because I like a clean, I'm going to quit. I'm going to reopen. Let's see if it can handle this cold, right? A lot of times, yeah. So it's whining about that. I go to File, Manage, Database, update. Oh, manage, manage database, and then do the relational diagram. Oh, yep.
And then it's asking you to log in.
Yeah, asking me to log in
Correctly.
over here to ship. Yeah. So, and then you come over here and you say relationships, and now it's all back together. So that's how you solve the problem. So the answer is it will break, but you can fix it easily. And then with the exception of we're using basic and intermediate skills, there are some people. Okay, so let me show you something. This is advanced Kung Fu here. So everyone just chill. You like this. We use this. So when we have a copy of Starting Point, we used to have this product called FM Gallery, which was Nick's kind of thing. And what it would do is that if you didn't have FM Gallery, it would throw a dialog. Like if you're not having this with it, it's going to throw a dialog. Well, what if this is an optional file? What you can do is you can come over here to File, Manage External Data Sources. And if you look at, this is hard coded right here, but look what you could do. You could put it in a variable. So you could dynamically, so if that variable is blank and you reference that, it's not going to throw up an error message. So if you had doggy 5, right? And then in that variable, so that's my variable, but I would actually grab that and put that in the variable, then reference the variable. So you could have dynamically within the programming your file, have it go different places.
And Cora had a good question.
She did. I was recently speaking with an RCC employee who told me that you can host FileMaker Cloud on AWS. Is this something you can also do with Server? Question mark.
Yes, but also FileMaker Cloud is a specific product that Claris offers. So it means that they host your database and you are calling them with any problems that you might have. There's some other differences we can go through, but they do host on AWS. FileMaker Server is the general product that we tend to install and deploy and this kind of stuff. It can be installed on site. It can be installed in a cloud. AWS can be a cloud. Many other clouds, Google or Microsoft or some random VPS provider who knows and cares. Make good choices about that. We will set you up on Amazon though if you ask, or on site generally. Those are the two options that
Can I rephrase the answer here a little bit by this subtlety here? Okay. RCC told me that you can host FileMaker Cloud on AWS. FileMaker Cloud is a service. You're not hosting. Just to be clear, FileMaker Cloud is a service of Claris, which is part of Apple. So it's a service from Apple. Apple happens to put FileMaker Cloud on AWS. Once upon a time, it was on Google, then they moved it. Okay. So the answer is, can you host it on AWS, cloud on AWS? No. Apple can host it for you on wherever they put it, which happens to be AWS. They could do it on your behalf, but you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
If you want to host a server on AWS, it will be FileMaker Server. FileMaker Cloud is the FileMaker Server software with a service that Apple bundles together. Okay. That's what happens with that. You're never going to be able to install this yourself. This is a service you pay someone else for. Okay. Right.
The first couple versions of it allowed that. They're not relevant at this point. They were the first, like FileMaker Cloud 1, 15, 16. Those you deployed inside of Amazon on your own Amazon account. We did a few of those. There was a tremendous and terrible offboarding process for all of that. Claris now just hosts the entire thing directly. And honestly, I think it's much better.
The version 2 is much better. Yeah, absolutely. It's still a little pricey, but whatever, that's fine. At least when you get above 15, 20 users, it gets a little pricey. So, well, then there's also performance on that too. Every time we don't have a lot of customers that use it.
We use server, we do plugins, Pro and server.
Add-ons, we use that.
We do a lot of Windows servers, honestly. That's because I can deliver ransomware protection for them.
Yeah.
That's at this point, that's the driving reason why. You pay extra for it, but that's honestly
So Cora, we clear on that? So this is a service.
I mean, scroll down and you'll see what she said as a follow-up. But
okay. Okay, I need another breakdown of the difference between cloud and server.
Use more word. I would say use more words when you're talking is the basic differentiation problem, because cloud is clouds, cloud hosts. There are many of them. All of them can host FileMaker Server. That can be confusing if you do not also specifically refer to the service FileMaker Cloud when you're comparing it. Okay. FileMaker Server can be deployed on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Anywhere Windows, Mac, or Linux can be done.
Perfectly stated. Perfectly stated.
We have a last comment that I'm going to grab, which is, whoa, ransomware. How prevalent is that on Linux? Should I be worried?
Yes.
Yes, it's prevalent. Yes, it's prevalent. And yes, you should be worried.
Without further specificity. Margaret gets it. How do I put this? The conversation about ransomware is not, is anyone out to get you? It's, is anyone out to get? Because they are targeting random cities, municipal water districts, random power plants, some manufacturing company no one's ever heard of. They're out for money. It's a money thing. So the operating system doesn't really matter that much. It's the basic security things that you've followed or not. How well you've locked down different access points and things like that. That's it. That's the whole conversation. And so for and I actually just learned recently I may be able to deliver this. So I'm not pre-announcing anything because it ain't done yet, and then you'll hear about it when it is. But I can't deliver a ransomware protection on Linux currently. I can on Windows. And so I continue to put people on Windows, even though it's more expensive for that reason. I can pack up the database in a zip and I can put it in a place in Amazon that nobody can delete it. That is amazing. It means that you have a daily backup that we can always go back to. Tremendous. And so obviously that's going to be a bad day because someone gets into your server or whatever. We've never actually had that happen to any of our clients in practice. So thumbs up, good work or whatever. I don't know, but that's great. However, people are attacked literally every day by this stuff. And they're out for money. There's also nation state actors doing, there's all this other stuff too. But just as far as like the most basic version of ransomware, they're trying to extort people. That's what it's for. They only care that you can, I don't know, buy a Bitcoin or whatever the heck they're doing it with these days. So
yeah. So real quick on that, when they attack you with the ransomware, the first thing, if they're on the server, they're going to try to scramble and screw up your backups.
Yep.
And generally, what frequently happens, according to the people who study this, and we've had like Moyer and Wim and other people on the live stream over the last couple of years, is that they can't get your backup scrambled. A lot of times, even though they're on your computer, they're not going to bother unless they can do it very inexpensively and do it automated, because they know you're just going to erase their report them to the FBI, and and then eventually that data gets collected, and maybe there's a kinetic response to that. I think there are kinetic responses to notoriously bad people that collect enough complaints. I would hope there is. I suspect there are, but
they do big rounds of arrests when they can track down the whole network or whatever of people and root them all out or whatever, that kind of stuff. There's also in some cases that you can find a reprieve, which is some of the security companies or sometimes the agencies or whatever will come up with, I'll call it a decryptor utility. But those are like, you're already over a barrel, and also you're like I don't know, you run an oil pipeline or something, and so you have money to talk to people like that through lawyers and IT and everything else, and that takes time too. And often those decryptors aren't perfect and can mess up your data. In practice, we would just suggest having backups that are good in the first place, because that is how you get back up and running quickly.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, I mean, honestly, I'm going to throw them, other than, reporting it to whatever agency, I'm going to throw the machine away. I'm not, there's
Yeah.
no
Oh,
reason to keep it or
absolutely.
touch it again. Take the databases, take the backup of the
Um,
databases that are unmessed with, and relocate them to a new machine. So,
Real quick, so NJ from Australia managed to he's already up and going. It's an early day for him. Says FileMaker, I keep Windows FileMaker server up to date. Java randomly loses its but frequently I am not in charge of the server, but I've admin access. Server is run by IT. Are there any thoughts of why Java drops and needs reinstalling regularly?
means you're doing, I'm not allowed to say that, sorry, because you have no control. As say you're doing something wrong. Your IT people are doing something wrong. Let me be direct. There are security softwares that will automatically remove Java if they don't know what they are. You need to alert your IT people that they need to deal with that problem, which is you have a software security problem, which is you have security software that's stripping stuff that's key to you or something, or blocking it, or otherwise locking it down because it's an old version. That means someone needs to be on top of the updates, period. Like, just simply, I don't know what that means for your corporate process or like how that needs to function. So you have to advise within your own organization on that basis, but it means someone needs to do more than what is currently being done if that's a recurrent or regular problem for you first. Second, we deploy Amazon Corretto, which is it's Java for this purpose, on all kinds of stuff, on all of the customer servers. It doesn't matter the platform, except for Linux. Linux comes with its own, and that is because it is disturbingly easy to shut FileMaker, kill the service, double click, and be done. Turn everything back on again, and you're off to the races with a fresh Java, and because that's all it takes. Um,
Okay.
they have very clean
Okay.
installers, and you can let Amazon write checks to maintain stuff. That's all. That's why. But there are many other competitors. There's even some. If you go onto the engineering blog, they have some like details for how you can tune, particular command line options of some of the other Javas to like run WebDirect faster or whatever. We've never done any of that
Yeah.
stuff because it's never been necessary. Um, so.
Yeah, I haven't heard about a lot of Java issues lately at all. So if he's having a recurring Java issue, then there's something unique to his
Yeah.
business or something
I
else.
I've had the reason I say it's probably something with the IT or the security software is I've literally had that. It was in the old era when it was FileMaker 18 and older, where the admin console was in Java. It was in
Hmm.
JavaScript, not Java. But that it was an actual Java application that ran on the server. I had some, we'll call them enterprising IT departments, remove Java because it was an old version, basically. And back then, it actually mattered. Like Claris has improved all of that stuff these days, so honestly, the particular sub-patch version of this stuff just doesn't matter at all anymore, but it used to.
Yeah.
And especially for the admin console, it would break in hilarious and terrible ways. And terrible because if you didn't put it back to the right version, you couldn't control your software. It was a big problem.
Yeah.
And so you had like two issues. You could uninstall Java, which some enterprising IT orgs would do because they're like, this is old, get rid of it. We don't know what it's here for. Or the other problem is the Java would update itself and break compatibility.
Oh, yeah,
And then
that one. I
you'd
remember
lose
that one.
control for silly reasons. Anyway, so we don't have neither of those problems anymore, but that used to exist. And so things like that still happen, especially with security software that does like installed software auditing and that kind of stuff, where it'll try and rip out things that are, if you don't tell it not to or allow listed or something like that, it'll rip out old stuff. Realistically, if it's yelling at you or something like that, all of those softwares and most of the orgs that deal with those softwares should have a panel or a facility or something somewhere where you can sign up as what I'll call the application owner or an application maintainer. And you can receive those screaming emails about, we'll call it an out-of-date Java, and you can use that to tip your IT people to go update Java so it doesn't like time out and rip out your Java or whatever weird thing is happening there. There's always a way, you may not know it exists, but there's usually a way to manage stuff like that, because they used to auto rip everything out, and then people are screaming because their apps are down and broken, and anyway,
makes a mess.
so
All right, well, we're at the end of the show today. If you guys have folks have additional questions about FileMaker Server, or you want you to call him and him to pontificate directly on the phone with you or help you, shoot an email to support@rcconsulting.com. Some people say, I cannot be bribed. If you bring a stack of cash, you can bribe Jacob. He can help you. It's not a problem.
I
Or
accept
very
dollars.
small.
Yep.
Accept dollars.
I accept dollars.
There you go. There you go. That does happen. So.
Have
All
a
right.
good
Good
one,
night. Hey,
everybody.
Dean from Prague. Welcome. Glad you're here. We'll catch you everyone tomorrow.
Bye.
Tomorrow, Christian Schmidt tomorrow, right? Yeah.
Yes, we have Christian Schmidt Q&A.
All right.
everybody.
Excellent day.
Have MBS questions, everybody. Bye.